Good morning and welcome to Think Share. My name's Zach, here to bring to you what I've been thinking about, sharing about, talking about, listening to, reading about that doesn't belong in math class, that is going to make you the goodest version of yourself. Today I was, this morning, I was being a little nostalgic, listening to some old school jams. I don't know why, sometimes songs just come up in my head, so I was listening a little bit to Kesha, TikTok, and then I listened to We Are Who We Are by Kesha. Reminds me of my junior year of college, a great time of my life. And then it kind of brought me over to, I don't know how I transitioned over to this one, but I was listening to Cardi B. Now, I don't usually listen to a ton of music. I'm more of a podcast, audiobook kind of guy in the past couple of years. So it was a little weird listening to this, but the past couple mornings I've just been doing some Anchor and then listening to some music. And I think Cardi B came up yesterday because I was in the grocery store walking through the magazine aisle, saw GQ magazine with James Harden on the cover, flipped through it and saw this article on Cardi B, and it was talking about how a lot of people want to see Cardi B take the world by storm. And it reminded me of an article that I saw. Nicki Minaj was like hating on Cardi B, saying she was like a clone of her or something. So I thought to myself, well, this will probably make some good reaction videos down the line. Maybe I should learn a little bit more about Cardi B. That could be YouTube money for me somewhere down the line. So turned on, looks like one of Cardi B's more recent songs, Be Careful. And listening to it, not a big fan of the fact that she used the N-word so much, but I thought this was a lot more soulful than her big hit Bodak Yellow. But this one line really stood out to me that I thought was cleverly put together and like pretty real. And she said, "You got me tripping, looking at." I'm remembering it from like 2 minutes ago. You got me tripping, looking in the mirror. Got me looking in the mirror, looking at myself different, because you ain't consistent. And I think so often that happens where it's really like a heartbreak / love song. She's talking about how she falls in love with somebody, they cheat on her, and she's disappointed that this person went and tried to hook up with some other random people. Meanwhile, she actually has given this relationship quite a bit, and it hurts to feel in love with a person that doesn't seem to feel the same way. And she's kind of saying, karma's going to get you. Like, you're going to end up with her instead of with someone that really loves you. And I think the real value of that line in the song is, I think we get to see her as like a real person instead of this sort of personality. I think a lot of people have heard her story about how she started out as a stripper and started rapping and then was able to turn that into a career, it looks like. So the really cool thing about that line, I think, is that so often we kind of judge ourselves based on others, and as much as it might not seem like I could relate this here, I feel like so often my students are asking questions like, did I do this right? And they're checking in with me to make sure that they did it right. And so sometimes I say, well, how could you check your work? Like, how could you look to see if you're doing it right, rather than asking me and me saying yes or no? Because so often we're judging our own performance, we're judging ourselves based on these external outputs. So whether it be me saying yes or no to you got it right, or in Cardi B's case, she was looking at herself in the mirror different because he ain't consistent. So when you're in a relationship or you're in a friendship, or you're finding some opportunity to judge yourself or look at yourself in the mirror, the question is, are you looking for validation in yourself, or are you looking for validation through someone else or something else? And I would invite people to try to discover ways to find validation within themselves. A perfect example, I was listening to Ollie, who is his YouTube channel is called Mindshore, and he made a video about like trying to stop judging yourself and judging others and comparing yourself to others, and how damaging that can be. One of the reason that the practice of trying to not judge yourself based on others and not compare yourself to others is because you're going to look at yourself in the mirror different. I know this one YouTuber that I constantly am judging myself based off of, and so I decided, as much as I enjoy his videos, I find myself judging myself so much based on him that I had to unsubscribe. This guy's Jarvis Johnson. You know, he's a pretty talented guy. He's a software developer. I guess he worked for Google at some point, but the thing that I kept judging myself on was he's made, I don't know, like maybe less than 30 videos or something. I'm up to around, I think I'm above 360 or so, and he's up to like, I don't know, 15,000 subscribers or something. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I'm only at 500. Why am I, like, I just feel like I'm constantly underperforming just comparatively to him. And, you know, I've looked at the stats, I've looked at numbers, I've tried to say to myself, why are his videos doing so much better? Why was he able to grow his channel so much more? Now, the one thing that we don't do when we judge ourselves and compare ourselves to others is we don't consider what is all the extra work that this person might have put in that I haven't. And so I don't know what kind of side hustle he's been doing to gather subscribers or get attention, but I know one sort of simple algorithm that he's used for his success, which is slightly longer form videos, so maybe 8, 9, 10 minutes. And, you know, he's a really good storyteller. And I think that's an underrated thing on YouTube. I know I'm not the greatest storyteller, but I keep saying to myself, like, even if I'm not as good of a storyteller, I feel like after this many videos, I should be doing better. So this brings me to a sort of another point. One of the philosophies I really try to embrace is the moment I'm saying something like that, I should be doing better, is I start shitting on myself. And I love using this phrase because it really catches people off guard. People say should all the time about what they should or shouldn't be doing, how they should or shouldn't be. And when you say should, it's creating some sort of expectation that we don't need to create, and it puts extra pressure on ourselves. So I've just gone through a slight whirlwind of ideas here, but I think the main idea I wanted to really portray here is that if we continue comparing ourselves to others, if we look at ourselves in the mirror different from external outputs, external sources, we're not necessarily going to find happiness or satisfaction or contentment with where we're at. So what I invite you to do as a listener, and I hope you take this seriously, is whenever you find yourself comparing yourself to others, you know, it's not wrong. I just want you to consider, is this healthy for me? And in moments where you find yourself making unhealthy comparisons, for example, myself looking at this other YouTube channel that has 15,000 subscribers, or Cardi B looking at the mirror and seeing herself in a different way because someone else is inconsistent, or if you're a student and you keep asking other people for answers, look for where you can validate yourself. Look for where you can say, I'm better than I was yesterday, rather than I'm still not as good as this other person today, or I imagine moments where, you know, Cardi B might consider being, looking at herself different from another person is, you know, maybe the other person loves them one day and really shows it one day and really doesn't show it another day. And so they think to themselves, well, I must be being a crappy person and then a good person and a crappy person. So just like, you got to really look to see, what are my actions today? How am I feeling about those actions, rather than basing yourself off of other people's actions. Now, one of the hard parts of relationships is, you know, in a good relationship, really both people are taking a lot of responsibility for how things are going. One of the things I really try to exercise is taking 100% responsibility over how things are going between me and my wife. Now, if I don't take 100% responsibility for that, I get problems, because then I start playing the blame game. The moment I start taking 99%, then I start blaming her for things that aren't going well. And if I start blaming, that's when we start blaming each other. Now, sometimes 50-50 can work when things are good, but when stuff hits the fan, 50-50 does not work. So you got to look for where you can take full responsibility, but at the same time, sometimes if you're in a relationship, but, you know, you're looking to see whether you're committed before marriage, you might want to consider, maybe I ought to take 99%. I think when we're first dating, when we're first in relationships, but not fully committed, not married yet, that's where we want to look to see, is this person someone that I want to be with long term? And in Cardi B's case, like, I would say, it sounds like that's just an unhealthy relationship that you got to get out of. If they're clearly being inconsistent and it's got you looking in the mirror different, it really might be time to consider looking for someone that's a bit more consistent, especially if that doesn't work for you. Now, some people, inconsistency is fine because they themselves are inconsistent. But this was a long and sort of windy message. I tried to rope in a couple different ideas and a couple different metaphors / stories together. I hope it made sense. Let me know. I'm not sure how reviews or whatever work, but call in and ask questions about this. I would love to hear what y'all think about this. Thank you for listening today, and I hope this made an impact on your day and on your life. If this impacted you, share it with someone or leave me a review in the iTunes or whatever network you're listening to this. Thank you for listening. Stay weird.